Hey folks, what is up? My name is Kendra VanDruff from Kendra VanDruff Watercolors. Today we are doing our very first YouTube tutorial and I am so excited. This has been a long-awaited project and I cannot wait to start teaching more watercolor tutorials for you. Today we are going to be painting, the hint is on my t-shirt, a watercolor Joshua tree. I am so excited to teach you how to paint a Joshua tree. It's one of my favorite national parks. It's the closest one to where I live, and I just love visiting this gorgeous desert. The sunsets are beautiful. It's just an amazing place to see. And so without further ado, let's get painting. Okay, so let's get started on our Joshua tree today. I am going to use primarily a brown shade, so I like to use Burnt Umber and Mars Black and kind of mix the two. Here I already have some Mars Black ready to go, and I'm just going to mix some Burnt Umber into there, just like that. And for now, I am using my Princeton size 6 round brush. So we're going to start by lightly sketching with this shade, the silhouette, to start with our Joshua tree. So I'm going to start with the base of the trunk first. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a parallel line right next to the first line that I just drew. So this is the trunk of the Joshua tree to start, and it's basically just two parallel lines so far. Now, Joshua trees are very curvy. I'm actually wearing a Joshua tree shirt. The branches are very whimsical and random, and if you've been to Joshua tree, there's no two that are the same. So the more organic and funky and fun and whimsical your Joshua tree is, the more realistic it'll be. So don't get too caught up in the direction of the branches. Just kind of let the randomness of it flow. Okay, so I'm going to start by doing a curved angled line. And then I'm gonna curve it upwards again. So right now it almost looks like an arm. This is gonna start to look like one of those things that you see at a car wash or a car dealership. You know, those tubes that wave a lot and they have the arms and they're really random looking. It might start to look like that at first, but that's all good. Okay, so now that I have my first arm, I'm going to go ahead and do a second, and I'm just going to connect it here to the first branch, and then I'm going to do a parallel line with the same angle. And notice that this branch here is slightly taller than this. We want some irregular heights, more random the better. Then from there, I'm going to break off and do another branch off of the second one. So I just did a curved line, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So one thing to notice here is that I have a branch angled towards the center of the paper. I have one slightly angled towards the right, and then this one here is kind of pointing, if it continued, slightly almost horizontal this direction. So kind of want the different branches to point in different areas. So now we're going to start another main branch or arm, if you will, and I'm going to go ahead and angle it in an opposite direction than we've done so far. So this one's kind of pointing towards the left corner. go. Now from there, I kind of want maybe a small little branch stemming off of this main branch here. There we go. And then maybe I want one more towards the bottom of this branch. Alrighty. And then I'm just going to connect this area to the trunk. And a little plot twist, I'm going to connect this branch to this branch. And how I'm going to do that is just coming from here, because this will all be colored. I can draw lines over this branch right now. I'm going to connect it like so. There we go. And I may just add maybe one final branch angled towards the bottom, just to mix it up. You can almost get caught up in adding so many branches with Joshua trees. Some are way more dense, and then others can be kind of simplified. Okay, so that is just the outline foundation of the Joshua tree so far. Again, if yours looks different from mine, that's a-okay and absolutely fine. So now let's start to color in our Joshua tree a bit with this brown color. And again, I have Burnt Umber mixed with just a hair of Mars Black. As you can see, I'm an artist, and so sometimes my color palette is quite interesting. I actually have 3. So that's going to be one of my projects sometime, is to kind of consolidate these colors a bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in this Joshua tree with this really nice brown color here. And as you go, you may need to mix maybe a little bit more of this color, but it should be not too complicated because it's just a hair of Burnt Umber and Mars Black. And I'm just going to work my way through the branches. So Joshua trees have quite a cool texture to them that we will add once this first initial layer dries. It's almost slightly spiky, but we will definitely add that detail soon. And it's the same thing for the greenery as well. It's got a lot of cool texture to it. Final branch. All right, at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and let this part dry just slightly, because if I added any wet green paint to this brown area, it would bleed quite a bit into the brown. And so we are going to just let this set for a couple minutes, and then we will start to add our greenery at the top of the Joshua tree. Alrighty, so it's been about 5 minutes and we have allowed our Joshua tree to dry a bit. So now we get to start adding the greenery to the top of the Joshua trees. And these are spiky, like if a mohawk was a tree, it would be a Joshua tree. So I am going to be using Olive Green by Winsor & Newton, and I may add just a little bit of Payne's Gray to the olive green, just to give it a little bit more depth. And to start, I'm going to do just some of our Joshua tree mohawk heads to start. And so I kind of just using an upward motion with my brush, I am just adding some spiky brush strokes, and I am making sure that I have light pressure with my hand, and I'm really utilizing the tip of the brush, not so much the belly of the brush, which will get you a pretty wide brush stroke if you use that part, but we're going to stick with light pressure with our hand and the tip of our brush. Alrighty. So if you notice here, I kind of follow almost the silhouette of a pine cone slightly. So you'll see the base is slightly wider than the top. So once you get towards the top, almost like a subtle rounded cone shape, the very top is going to be the longest part. So the top is slightly elongated. Alright, so I want to add a second little kind of spiky pine cone here, and I'm going to angle this one towards the bottom of the page. It's going to be slightly smaller than the first one we just did. It's very wispy and feathery. And there we go. So that is our first two bits of greenery for the Joshua tree. Now I want to do another one for the next branch. So we're going to kind of repeat this process 17,000 times. Just kidding. This part of the painting is when it starts to get repetitive, but it also starts to get kind of relaxing, because you just kind of focus on similar brush strokes and repetition. So it's really nice to get into that creative flow state, if you will. Alright, I think I'm going to do a second one on this right side. Again, I'm just mixing it up. Okay. Now, let's move on to this third branch over here. This one's going to point towards the right corner of the page. And as you can see, it will eventually layer with this one, and that is totally fine. Okay, so there's that guy. And I'm gonna do maybe like 3 total on this branch, again, just to mix it up. So maybe behind this branch here, there's another bit of greenery popping out from behind, but we can't quite see it from our perspective. We'll just show part of it, like the top third of it or so. And then I'm going to do another one pointed in the opposite direction. And again, this part is pretty loose and organic, so don't overthink it too much. Alright, this bit here is gonna kind of underlap eventually behind this larger piece of greenery here. Maybe this one's gonna be kind of long, so I might show just the tippy top of it tucked behind this one right here. Okay, now let's go ahead and add this guy. Give it a nice spiky mohawk over here. I'm gonna do one small final little mohawk guy up here pointed towards the right corner. Okay, so now we are going to allow the greenery of the tops of the Joshua tree dry, and in the meantime we're going to start to add some detail and texture to the trunks and the branches. Okay, so what we're going to do is mix up some more burnt umber and some black. This time we're just going to use a hair bit more black because we want it just to be a tinge darker. Tinge, is that a word? Just a tad darker than the original brown, or a tinge, whichever you prefer. Alright, so because I was originally using my size 6 brush, I actually want to switch gears because this is just a hair bit too thick for the details of the trunks that we need to get. So I am going to switch gears to Princeton size 2 brush instead of a size 4 or 6. And this is just words are hard. Anyway, this is just a tad bit better for the detail that we need. Alrighty, so we got our color ready to go. So I want to start to add these tiny little brush strokes along the trunk here, and I'm allowing some of the texture just to show and kind of go a little bit over the main line of the Joshua tree trunk because you really want to see this nice wispy feathery texture. It's almost like we are giving the Joshua tree lots of false eyelashes. And we also want to add some of this texture directly onto the face of the trunk as well. So we are going to continue to layer these really nice delicate wispy brush strokes on the tree trunk and the branches, and making sure that it goes slightly over the edge so that way you really see the texture pop. Okay, so you can totally see the difference here between this bottom portion of the trunk and the top. So you can kind of see it starting to pop more, and that's what we are going for. Fun fact, I have many Joshua tree stories, but my first time to Joshua tree, I volunteered, as I normally do, on trips to do the cooking and menu planning because I like to cook. And so I was super on it with that, you know, packed up the cooler, got my Coleman camping stove ready to roll, got everything planned and was super excited. I went with my sister and 2 friends and packed my personal, you know, luggage, if you will, you know, just a backpack for a couple of outfits and toiletries, etc. But I was just so excited about the menu and just really pumped to use the Coleman stove for the first time on my own. So I loaded everything up. I saw my sister and our couple of friends were loading the luggage, so I thought, okay, like cool, like they've got that. I'm just gonna kind of make sure we have all of our cooking utensils and gear, you name it, pots and pans, extra trash bags, etc. So we're driving to Joshua Tree, and for like the first like hour and a half, you do have cell phone service on the way there from where I'm based in Orange County. It's about an hour and a half drive. And right before we go into the entry of the park, just our last few moments of cell phone service, my mom texts me. She goes, "You forgot your backpack," like basically like your luggage. And in that moment, I was like, how did that happen? What on earth? How did I not check that? And then also in that moment, I just thought, you know, camping is camping and you just gotta live life with a little risk. So I had like one outfit for like 3 days, and Luckily, someone brought an extra pillow, and somehow I had a sleeping bag. But that was pretty interesting, but kind of funny. So just rolled with it, and yeah, it was pretty funny. So something to note here is you can notice some of the spikes, most of the spikes actually, and in conclusion, all of the spikes, not most, are pointing downward, and so that's kind of the direction I'm going for the spikes on the trunk. But then if you'll notice here on this branch, I'm kind of angling the spikes to point the direction that the greenery is kind of pointing. So you can see this bit of greenery. I'm kind of continuing that sense of motion towards this area of it. So I'm going to do the same thing on this next branch by noticing how this greenery is kind of pointing this direction. So I'm just going to continue that on this branch. So if you haven't already been to Joshua Tree, A, do so. B, something to keep in mind is depending on if it's a full moon or not, the stargazing there is incredible. I just love it. You can see the Milky Way so vividly, and shooting stars. It's just so pretty. I really love going there to see the stars. So here, I kind of wanted to indicate that this branch is popping in front of this branch here, so I added kind of some spikes, slightly more dense in this area, just to help separate these two branches a bit. Alrighty, so let's continue to add our spikes. So my sister and I, one time, we decided, when we heard that the comet Neowise, I believe is the name. If it's not, I do apologize, because you're probably like, what? But the comet Neowise, as I think it is, was going to shoot across the sky, and they said like it wouldn't happen again for like another like few thousand years. So we were like, what better place to see that comet than in Joshua Tree? So my sister and I decided to leave at like, say 7 p.m. just to go see the comet and head back home. So we listened to podcasts on the way. Said it was supposed to shoot across the sky around 8:30, 8:45. So we got into the park. We were super excited. And when we got there, there was tons of cars just pulled off on the sides of the roads, just looking at the sky and enjoying the stargazing. And we were like just so pumped to see this comet. And we get there and we find out we missed it by 10 minutes. That's classic Curtis fashion. My maiden name is Curtis. My sister's last name is Curtis. And so we're kind of notorious for just running just a hair bit behind. But nonetheless, it was still really great quality time. And it was really cool to see even families all together just sitting on the tops of their cars or just pulling out lawn chairs on the sides of the road of Joshua Tree and just enjoying the stars. And so that was pretty cool. And I brought some Trader Joe's snacks like you do and just enjoyed quality time with my sister. But yeah, I saw some incredible photos that Joshua Tree's Instagram shared of the comet going over the park, and it looked beautiful. So super cool. All right, y'all. So I'm now going to add some more spikes coming towards the left side now. I'm gonna actually redefine this branch here that's overlapping a bit. There we go, just making it pop. Last branch, you guys. Alrighty, love it. Let's get started on the detail work of the greenery, and that'll be the last step to the artwork. So we are almost there. Alright, so I'm gonna mix some olive green up again with just a touch of Payne's Gray because I want this olive green to be slightly darker than the first initial olive green that we did. So I'm gonna go ahead, start over here. I want this Joshua Tree Mohawk situation to be overlapped from the one below it. So I'm just gonna add just a few layers of pointed wispy kind of eyelash strokes over this bit of greenery here. So kind of similar idea to the trunk. I'm gonna kind of connect the brown here with the green so it doesn't look like such a sharp contrast between the brown and the green. So now let's go ahead and do the same thing on this lower guy, and we will just repeat that process on all of them. And I'm gonna kind of try to define this edge here just a hair bit and a little bit on the bottom as well. And there we go. Let's go ahead and repeat that process for all of these guys. These almost look like bebe hedgehogs, as Moira Rose would say in Schitt's Creek. So we're just gonna go ahead and add these bebe hedgehogs all over. And again, I'm just adding a little bit of green to connect the greenery to the brown, just a hair bit in this area, just kind of blending those slightly. All right, so this guy is gonna overlap as well on top of this teeny tiny little hedgehog guy. I'm just gonna keep layering. Just keep layering, just keep layering. Alrighty. So I want this huge sucker to overlap over the rest of the greenery here. So I'm just gonna kind of outline that just to indicate an area. So the edges are what get the most of this Payne's Gray olive green blend, just that way we can kind of define that. All right, before I wrap it up, I'm going to make sure to kind of redefine some of the greenery that's overlapped. So I'm just going to add a little bit more Payne's Gray to what's left of the green, just to make sure it's really clear which ones are in front and which ones are underleft. Alrighty folks, this is our Joshua tree. I love it. So much fun to paint. Ta-da! Check it out, y'all. We finished our Joshua tree. I love how it turned out. It is so cute. I just love Joshua trees. They're so fun. Thank you so much for joining my tutorial today. I hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to like and subscribe so that way you don't miss any further national park related watercolor tutorials. Thank you so much again for painting with me, and happy painting!